I made my family my top priority. It's my physical body and my spiritual path it's all those things in totality are what give me the strength and the clarity to go and work. Because if you're always behind and you're always chasing and you're always tired because you're not putting the right things in the right
Yeah.
boxes,
Yeah.
you're never going to show up for your family.
You're listening to the Kristof Lewis Podcast, a podcast where I have conversations with inspirational people. My name is Chris, but my family calls me Kristof. My goal is to have as many conversations as possible with people who have forged their own path by pursuing their dreams, making them a reality, all the while emitting positivity and sharing this knowledge with others. I seek these people out and share this information with you, proving to the world that you can do what makes you happy and do what you want for a living while being a good human being. We'll talk about careers, but we'll also cover any story that inspires. Let's do this while helping each other. Thanks for listening. I'm happy you're here. Well, hey there. Welcome to the Kristof Lewis Podcast. If you're watching me on YouTube, of which a medium we are on, you will see that I'm holding this wonderful book called 100 Doors. This is by Dane Carter, who happens to be my guest today. What does financially free mean to you? I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to think about it, and I'm going to think about it as well. What does that mean to you? Well, to Dane Carter, this was real estate, and he made it really easy. So easy that he wrote a book about it because he didn't want to keep that information in to himself. So if that doesn't show you that he is the perfect guest for this podcast, then I don't know what does. Because this is all about giving information to other people. So my answer to you that you thought of in that 10 seconds is time. What does financially free mean to me? It means getting back time. It means not going to work every day and getting paid for the time that I put in. It means doing what I want and getting paid when I'm doing what I want. And Andy figured it out with real estate. Amongst all of that other things, I mean, he's an amazing investor, real estate, all of that, but he's a great father and he puts his family first before anything. So I couldn't wait to talk to him. So without further ado, welcome to the Kristof Lewis Podcast.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, we were just talking a second offline. I'm beyond excited to have you on here. Your vision, your morals, everything that you're doing in your life line up with me, and those are things that I strive to do on an absolute daily basis. From everything you put in family first and spirituality you talk about, and then you go into the business hard-headed. I think you had mentioned in an interview with Ed Milet, you said you do those three things in that order so that you can go out on the hunt for the day with a clear mind. And I lead with that because it's on my mind, so it comes out. And that's one thing that I'm working with on myself very hard. As a newer podcaster, less than a year, one of the things I'm absolutely obsessed and nothing short with creating content for the podcast, but I have a family and I have a daughter on the way. So it's very hard for me, or it's been hard. I'm getting better at it, but it has been very hard for me to time management, I guess, is the quickest way to put it. So to see somebody like yourself in your position, to be doing all the things you've done throughout your entire life, your career up to this point, and how you're projecting out into the future is something I want you to know, like on a personal level, that I look up to because I am struggling with it with myself. Like, honestly, full transparency, my wife and I are still figuring it out because I've never done anything like this. I work a day job, then I come home and I work my night job, the podcast. So it's difficult, but obviously you reach a lot of people. Your following's huge on all the mediums that you push out to, but I know for me, when people tell me personally like this, it means a lot. So I just wanted to tell you face to face that it means a lot to me, that everything you're doing.
No, thank you, brother, very much, because it's really important to me. But at the same time, like, I'm human. Like, I make mistakes. I don't do this even close to perfect, because there's only a couple things that I can like truly control. I run multiple companies, so the one and two things that I control that I talked to a lot of people about is I can control my morning-ish, and I can control what I do right before I go to bed. And so you have a daughter on the way, you said?
Yeah. I gotta check when this comes out. So obviously, people that are listening to this right now are be like, well, but yeah, she will be. She's supposed to be here on the 12th of February. So I think this comes out. This I think is the first one of February. So she may not be here yet, but yeah, soon.
Dude, it's so exciting. And you actually did a post it was either today or yesterday, and I think your wife was like dancing and you guys were having so much fun. Like that to me, I always get goosebumps. This is like the best.
She cracks
This is
me
your
up.
first child?
It is our first child, yeah.
Dude, this is going to change the game for you forever in the most amazing way.
Absolutely.
I've always wanted to be a dad. I had no idea it was going to be this incredible. I had no idea it was going to be this much work. I had no idea it was going to literally put me on a very different trajectory. So because I've got these two little monkeys now that are my whole world, I've had to move and shift my mornings around. So before it was my wife and I would wake up, I would go ride my bike for 3 or 4 hours. I would train my face off. I would work like crazy hours. But as soon as she said, we're pregnant, I instantly was trying to figure out how can I move my office to my house? How can I started this process before he was even born. I wanted to be there because my dad wasn't really there for me and never has been.
Yeah.
I didn't want to repeat that. So I wanted to disrupt that entire family lineage of hundreds of years of how men show up for their family. Yeah. It's not just go out and work and hunt and make money and come home and feed me. It's I want to be a huge part of the way they grow up. So, and my son came exactly 1 month early. God. I had 19 properties in escrow, some investment properties, and I was just like, Jackson, please just don't come. They're all going to close this month. Please don't come yet. But he had other plans, so he came a month early. But I was able to get home and start to work from home. Yeah. I worked it out with my partners and business partners because I made my family my top priority. And it's my physical body and my spiritual path it's all those things in totality are what give me the strength and the clarity to go and work. Because if you're always behind and you're always chasing and you're always tired because you're not putting the right things in the right boxes, you're never going to show up for your family.
Absolutely. And one of the things that resonated with me most is, well, I speak about mindset, of course, we all do. But I know when things aren't right at home or you're struggling, am I giving her enough time or my family enough time? And there's a little bit of tension there, then it just affects everything because I'm not as productive as I should be at my day job or my night job, like throughout the rest of my day until I come full circle to the next day. And until I make agreements with my wife or whatever's going on. Yeah, exactly. Until my head is right. Like you're talking about setting yourself up in the morning, and I shifted like working out to the end of to after work for a while. Didn't work out. I actually recently shifted back and recently started meditating. I know that aligns with New Year's resolutions, but that wasn't a thing. It just happened.
Sure.
And I think some of it because I was like seeing you and practicing gratitude in the morning. So I actually am stealing that. I'm going to throw gratitude right after meditation as well. So it's going to be waking up, and I actually just put it on Instagram story a second ago before we started talking. But even before that is one of the things that starting my day off with a win is not snoozing. Now, I've been snoozing my entire life. I'm 31 years old, and
I did too.
Yeah,
waking up kids, brother. It's game over.
I know, and I know it's about to shift again. I'm gonna have to like pull some serious audibles, but like for the time being, for at least the next month, what I'm doing is, I used to snooze like you wouldn't believe 5-6 times. So now I wake up, I don't snooze. I'm immediately engaged in why I'm not snoozing, and then 5 minutes later, I'm on the floor meditating. 5 minutes after that, starting tomorrow, be practicing what I'm grateful for. And then I go to the gym, and then I go to work all before 6:45 a.m. So it's, snooze, meditate, gratitude, gym, 4 things you can knock out in your day. Like anybody can do this if you're willing. I'm only cutting out like an hour and a half of my sleep. So I'm accomplishing 4 things before I have to, step out the door to work.
It's so important, and I didn't realize how important it was until I literally made it a non-negotiable.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
The amount of energy that I have from those things, even when I don't want to do them, I know it's going to put me in power. It's going to put me in this state where I can actually perform. And if I have some kind of argument with my wife, or I have some kind of thing that's still lingering, and I leave the house and go out the door, I'm not the best I can be for my kids. I'm not the best I can be for my clients, my investors, myself, people that are counting on me, my employees, like everything. So I have a responsibility to them to go out and hunt with the clearest mind humanly possible. Yeah. And that might mean, look, I'm going to turn my car around. I'm going to go talk to my wife about this, or I'm just going to get her on the phone and be like, look, honey, you know what? Let's maybe table this. I have a huge day. We need to really sort this out, but I can't have this headspace right now. So let's just agree that we're going to talk about this evening. And just her saying, okay, cool, gives me that space. Absolutely. But like, again, the non-negotiables in the morning are so crucial. I can never put enough emphasis on that. As soon as my brain wakes up, I drop into a 10-minute meditation. I used to try to do it for 30 minutes and it wouldn't work. Yeah. So I've stripped away all the excuses. 10-minute meditation. I sit in gratitude for 5 minutes, whatever I'm going to do, and I work out, I move my body. Because I'm too tired in the evening. I can still do it. Sure. But the excuse board of directors that lives up here, they start screaming around that time. So as long as I can snuff out and suffocate all those excuses, I get put in the state of energy that I love. And then I eat really clean food. And like I pray and I do my, like all the stuff I do, and then business. Mm-hmm. So many people do it the other way around because it'll just go sideways on you. But when you have kids, and I was a very different person at 25 than I was at 35. And I'm a very different person at 42, which I just turned, than I was at 35. So as life shifts, your things are going to shift with it. And it's important to know that there's only a couple of things you can control. And that's what you do right when you wake up and right before bed.
Yeah, there's a lot of good points there. In reverse order is yes, absolutely when you wake up, because when I was doing it after work, for the gym at least, I was going fairly consistently, but there were times that like something came up that I had to do, or an emergency, like my dog had to go to the vet or whatever, like crazy stuff that takes priority. But more than likely that's not going to happen in the morning when I first wake up at 4:45. So absolutely. And making them a non-negotiable. And one step further, I'm a planner. So what I've done is I put it onto an Excel sheet, and I like seeing the accomplishment of like checking it off or color coding it. I'm a freak. Me too. And you know, I have like, and I'm telling you, and I was actually talking to two people that have been on the podcast before this release, is Phil McCarthy and Leland Jones, and they are crushing it. Entrepreneurs working 18 hours a day right now, getting their business off before the end of January. But I was talking to him in the podcast that hasn't aired yet. But they're planning their 18-hour day, not down to the day, not down to the hour, but down to the minute. So I say this to you and to the listeners is because I'm also planning it down to the minute. Like I wake up 4:45, I'm up meditating 5 minutes later. So I literally have from 4:55 meditation, 4:55 to 5 gratitude, 5 to 5:30 get to the gym, 5:30 to 6:30 gym. You know, like things like that. And that's just because that works for me, which is another point I want to make. Like that's, if I have it out like that, like you said, I need to get it done. Like I know that's a no shit. That's going to happen if I have it written down. And then I check it off. I feel good. I get that sense of accomplishment, which propels me with absolute fury to the next item. And then I catch that. Momentum. Yeah, exactly. You get that momentum and you keep it, and it's great. By far is the best thing. It works for me.
Yeah, and it can work for a lot of people. What most people think is that, oh, it's just going to work itself out. Not usually. When you're like crazy disciplined and you put those systems in place like you did, it creates an enormous amount of freedom. But what a big thing is, you get data. You get how much time you're wasting. That's my favorite thing to do with people.
That's a phenomenal point.
Is when you schedule 3 hours out to the minute of your day, you realize like, I can actually do whatever for 2 hours. I got so much done. Yeah. If I need that 2 hour gap, I can give it back to myself. I can go for a walk. I can go surf. I can go to the gym. I can go do something for me. I can go get a massage. Where people get themselves in a lot of trouble is they miss one or something happens. Mm-hmm. And then those stories start in their heads, and then they find a way out that way. Yeah. So what I've done is I've just learned to course correct. If something happens, if I miss something, I don't slow down. I pivot. And like you said, throw an audible, and keep moving. So you're staying in the
Yeah.
flow of the day. It might not go as planned to the minute as you want, but you're still in
Yeah.
the flow.
Absolutely. And that was my second point as I was stating them in reverse order. One was how I plan my day. Two was being able to pivot, call that audible. And you were talking about from 25 to 35, 35 to 42. A lot of things changed. Those are years. So you can pivot throughout the day. And then, your long-term plans, you change your trajectory all the time. So you need to be able to do that. Because I know, like you said, I plan my day down and gosh, I plan my, long-term goals where I want to be in X amount of years. And this is what I want to do. And things change, and for a planner, I think that could be disruptive. It can be, unless you approach it with the mentality ahead of time, knowing that, yes, I have all these plans, I have these things almost laid out, etched into the stone, but they could change. They could absolutely change, and you got to be okay with that. And it can be hard. It can be, and I think unless you already make up your mind before you start moving forward, that no matter what happens, like, these are my negotiables, like you were saying. Or number two, I'm going to be able to have to pivot. Or I'm going to have to accept that I'm going to have to pivot and be okay with that.
Yeah, and make it fun. If it gets too rigid, it won't work and you'll find the excuses. I love it when you can get these little wins. So many people blow it this time of year, and they're like, this is my year, and all this crap that's all over the internet right now about,
Sure,
I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go to the gym, for... it's going to be an hour, and then I'm going to go to the gym, and that's good. But then you don't do it, and that guilt and that shame that's around that is what stops them and what stops people from doing it. So for me, I'm like, don't say you're going to go to the gym for an hour. Say you're going to go for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, because then when you go more, you just get more. You just get extra. So those accomplishable goals are what build confidence, and that self-confidence puts you in the momentum. I work with a lot of people that are in dark places. They're in dark places in business, or they're in dark places in their personal life, or they're like, I'm getting divorced. That's it. We're done. And I'm like, you're blaming everything on them. Let's go in a different direction. So those little wins put you in a different frame of mind. And mindset, like you said earlier, is a huge thing I talk about.
Yeah, the little wins. And I never thought, I laugh because I never thought, like I said, the snoozing. I never thought the snoozing was going to be so important for the momentum that I gained in my day. And that's why I wanted to share it, because it's like everything that we try to do here with what we're doing right now is sharing things. That's it. You want to share it. So if I discover something, even as small as it is, I'm going to share that because it's very important.
Snoozing is the kiss of death, in my opinion. And I was a big sleeper. But what you're doing, and you'll hear a lot of people talk about this, when you snooze, and there's two kinds of way of looking at it, and I kind of see both sides. But the first one is like, you know what? Sleep is more important than what I need to do right now. Sleep is more important than that target I'm chasing and that dream. And that's fine. I understand that sleep and recovery and all those things are very, very important.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But when it's the subconscious mind that drives a lot of our big actions. And sometimes the subconscious is like, well, yeah, but who cares? We're just going to hit snooze 3-4 more times. But you're telling yourself, you're already giving yourself an out for the day before the day even begins.
Yeah.
People don't realize the energetic power of that. And you're in total control over it.
It does lie within the subconscious. And that's something, to me, at least in my experience, that's had to be absolutely trained through consistency and the momentum that you spoke towards. Because without that, if I don't become it, or I guess if I don't make it habitual, then it's going to be that much harder to do. So once it becomes like, I know, like without even thinking, so down to that subconscious level, if I don't have to think about it, I know I'm just getting up and my mind doesn't even have time to process like, oh my God, I need to sleep. Let's just sleep. And then I'm just up and then just one thing after another.
That's why I go straight into meditation. Sure. I'm still like, I'm lying down. Like, it's not the kind of meditation where I'm sitting up with perfect posture and I'm sitting in lotus and I've got the chimes and the incense going. No. I'm just prepping my brain. I'm getting my brain prepped for what's coming next. And that's the thing. It's like I had to strip away all of the excuses so I could still do them over and over. I can do them when I travel. I can do them anywhere in the world to get my mind in a correct state. Because if I touch my phone, most of the things on my phone are a problem. It's not like you're the greatest to ever walk the earth, Andy, and we love, like you're the greatest. Like, no, it's like we have this problem, this problem, this problem, and this problem. This property's going sideways.
Yeah.
So I need to prepare myself mentally for that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. To the phone, at least in your, I don't have that problem yet. I hope to have the problem yet where I have problems that I have to solve on my phone right now. My only problem is ensuring that the time that I spend on my phone is productive.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Smart. Well, and especially like I love the space of podcasting. I love what it represents. I love it gives so many people a voice to help. I love you can do it when you're working out. I love it in your car. Yeah. But it's conscious information. Like I'm hitting that podcast for a reason and processing that information. It's very mindful of what's going to go into my mind. That's why I love podcasts. That's why I listen to in my car. I listen to them 24/7. But what's really cool is it's not super expensive to get going. Mm-hmm. And there's all these little things you can do to share your voice and your message. And you never know who's going to like hear it and resonate it and help. But as far as like things on your phone, like you can engage with people. You can drop into podcasts. You can follow the podcast hashtag and you can join the conversation. So you are actually working and you're reaching out to people like me. So like you like a lot of people get stuck in the like, oh, I'm on social media wasting time. I'm never wasting time on social media. It's business. All the time. It's fun because it's my lifestyle. But I don't look at it like I'm wasting time. I look at it like I'm doing research, I'm doing R&D, I'm trying to communicate with people, and I'm connecting to my audience.
Yeah, phenomenal points, and that's a good point to make because I know that I mean, originally when I got all these things, Facebook, Instagram, I was purely just doing it for, I think, what they were maybe initially created for, but you'd have to be a fool not to realize, I mean, just how beneficial, how insane leverage you can use them. Like,
look what we're doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. So never in my entire life been able to contact. Like, how the hell would I've even anybody I've had on the podcast, unless they were a friend or family, which I've been blessed to have on here, I would have never been able to get a hold of. I'm not going to find your number. I'm not going to find your email really anyway. Maybe I'll be lucky enough to get through you on your website. Maybe. So to use these things and actually leverage them and not feel guilty, I guess, like you said. That's exactly what it is. It's like guilt and shame will keep you stuck always. I don't care what situation it is. Those are powerful words and powerful emotions. They will keep you stuck. Giving yourself permission to be on social media, to learn, to grow a business, to network, to reach out, just that little push of permission is great. It's hard in the beginning because your wife's probably like, put your phone down, put it in the drawer. I'm sick and tired of being on your phone. And your response is probably like, honey, but I'm working. And trust me, we all have these conversations. I get it. But that's going to change here in the future a little bit. But what you're doing is you're investing into your audience. You're investing in actually having quality listeners come to your podcast. You're working, you're growing, and the leverage that comes with it is amazing. But there was a podcast of a recap from the one that I did last week that I think just dropped today. I talked about exactly what you just talked about. It's so easy to get to people now. It's crazy. Yeah, it blows me away.
Like it's initial. Some people, like 100 people to even maybe find somebody's email, and you're never getting on a phone call or in front of them ever, unless you bump into them on the street. Now, hey, here's my I just did a podcast yesterday, and this guy, I think it's about like fatherhood. He reached out to me. I looked at his Instagram feed, looked him up. He seemed like a really good guy. He was talking about being a dad and everything else. And he was just kind of getting rolling.
Yeah.
I'm like, I would love to.
Yeah.
He was so pumped.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what's incredible about, and what I strive to as a creator as I grow my content, to always, no matter what, continue to engage my audience, whether it's through email, whether it's through direct message, comments, like having that interaction is absolutely priceless. Yes, it helps you maintain and build up your audience, but as an audience member or a listener, it's absolutely priceless. And we've all started somewhere. So me to look back 8 or 9 months when I started without using social media as we're discussing right now, there's no way I would have had the opportunity to grow in the manner that I've been able to grow, because like you've said, I mean, certain people that I've talked to now and yourself, like I'm absolutely blown away that I get to, take some of your time out of the day. Because I mean, ultimately, I think most of what we're doing is to get time back for ourselves, kind of like what you're talking. I mean, when people talk about, I want to be rich, it probably means that they want to be financially free. And when they say they want to probably be financially free, it's probably because they want to have more time to do what they want. At least that's what I want. So
I work my face off for the freedom, not the commas and zeros in the bank. And the freedom it allows me and my family to do whatever we want, whenever we want.
Absolutely.
That was not the case. I was raised super poor. We had nothing. I had to kind of build everything up. But a big part of this whole movement with like the social media and podcasting goes really deep for me. Like, and what you're doing right now, how cool is it going to be when your daughter is 18 and she gets to listen to this? Or how about when her great grandkids are 18 or whatever and get to listen to this and whatever platform, and you've been gone for years.
Yeah.
I would give anything to hear a podcast from my great grandfathers.
I would agree.
Anything. So you're building a legacy through these digital platforms by giving back. And it's hard for people that are close to you sometimes to understand that, because they're like, why are you doing this? Why does it care? I try to always share that piece of it because it helps, especially with either a husband who's kind of skeptical or a wife that's like, what are you doing? Why are you spending all this time here? When you talk about it in the way as I'm trying to leave a legacy for my family, it shifts. It's a different place. It's not ego. It's not I'm trying to become famous, but I'm trying to leave something behind that's going to live on for a long, long time. And for me, it's really important because, like, again, which I talk about a lot, if I get hit by a bus, my kids will now, because I've got almost 3 years of content, will know exactly what I was passionate about without a shadow of a doubt.
I mean, I absolutely love it. And it would have meant a lot to me regardless. But now that I have a daughter on the way, it means the world to me. And I do understand that. And I've thought about it a little bit, but I've never thought about it in that depth of leaving a legacy generation after generation. That deep is a pretty interesting point to make. I mean, being able to do that, and you say, like, you give the extreme, which is unfortunately plausible, that, we could just not be here tomorrow, which is why I start my day off with gratitude every day. But, I mean, for them to have the opportunity to go back into the YouTube archives decades later or something, would be incredible. Like
hundreds of years later.
Yeah.
Like, okay, think about, you could literally go and listen to a podcast from Pablo Picasso as he's going through the process of painting the Sistine Chapels or whatever. Like, that's going to be possible in the future. So, like, I have a huge responsibility just to my family to do that, just so they know. Like, I would love to know, like, what was up with these people in my family that's passed their DNA to me. Like, where was the hustler? Like, where was the business guy or gal that was just going for it no matter what? I have no clue. But I got some of the DNA, but there's no way to track it.
Yeah, that absolutely resonates with me. Like, for example, my parents are here, fortunately. I love them very much, but their parents aren't here, unfortunately. And I met one of my grandparents when I was 2, and then unfortunately she passed away. So for me, again, that resonates so much, where I wish I could go back. And, like, I just got out of the Navy last year. I had a grandfather that was in the Navy that I figured out when I joined the Navy, but to be able to go back and talk, or not talk to him, obviously, but, like, listen, if I could, I mean, God, that would be incredible.
Right? Like, I think about it constantly, and I was very close to my grandma and very close to my grandpa, and they're both gone. But I think about them all the time. Do you know how cool it would be just to put on my headphones and listen to something from them? Be like, oh, man, I really missed them. And then I feel better. Yeah. So, like, it's so much deeper for me than even just this. This is impactful. This is amazing. But I'm thinking about, the hundreds and hundreds of years in the future.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you think about it as deep as you want to think about it. And there's so many levels to what you do with your life. And I think a thought like that is like thoughts that I've had throughout this podcast that force me to think of things I haven't thought before. That happens a lot with entrepreneurship on this podcast, but now you've just brought it up in a different genre, family. and passing on your legacy. So this is a thought that I haven't had before. That's what I love about podcasts and interacting with people, is having these type of conversations and forcing new thoughts to be created that you've never thought before, which not only teaches you what that new thought was said, but it teaches you that there's so much out there that I've never heard, or I don't, the quote, you don't know what you don't know. And it's so damn true. So when somebody says like something like that I've never heard before, it absolutely blows my mind. And then it gets me thinking again. It puts me in this momentum of where, what else is out there? What else can I learn that I don't know that would severely be a benefactory to my life? And I love that idea of being able to pass that down.
Yeah, it's true. It's a huge reason why I really wanted to write that book that's behind you, The 100 Doors. I was 30 years old, and I'm sitting there in this boardroom with all these different people and meetings and lenders. And one of them was talking about how you could buy a 4-unit building for 3.5% down in this country using FHA financing. And I was just like, what? Time out. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. I was raised by a single mom. We had nothing. She's always rented. Her mom rented. Like, it was like generations of renters. And wait a minute. For $20,000, we can buy a $700,000 duplex, live in the front house, rent out the back units to almost cover the whole mortgage. So over 20 years, somebody else is paying down the asset while I'm living almost for free. Yeah. And then at the end, I've now completely changed my family's like path. I need to go probably tell more people about that. Exactly. So I went all in, and a huge part of my message is to not have people being 3rd and 4th generation renters if they choose. There is nothing wrong with renting. I grew up renting. We moved around a lot. But if there's a different way, because what you don't know will hurt you, especially in the financial world. My mom didn't have any financial sense. Zero. So I had to go find it, and all I knew how to do was work hard. But as you start to grow and expand in business, you start getting these mentors. They're like, hey, have you thought about this? You start hiring tax specialists. And it's like, oh, I didn't know that. So there's all these things that grow. But for me with real estate, there's no faster way to change your lineage than to figure it out the correct way. That's why I'm like, don't buy a house. Don't buy a house. Your first piece of real estate should not be a house, quote unquote, mm-hmm. One house, one door. Anything happens to your family, you're stuck with that mortgage no matter what. If it happens to you and you live in a triplex or a fourplex, there's 3 other families paying that mortgage with you. It gives you space and time and leverage, which I just think is great. The highest divorce rate in our country's history was 2008, 9, and 10. Mm. Yep. Do you think that just because there was a financial world that collapsed, people are losing their homes, they're fighting? Fast forward 10 years, all those 3, 4, and 5-year-old kids are all now in high school eating pills like Tic Tacs because of this drama that happened to their family. So like I go into a very deeper place with that even, is it's not just like, oh, I'm going to make money and be a real estate investor. Like I'm trying to save families.
Yeah, and that's what I love about what you do is you go deeper. That I've just divulged what you're saying right now. The last 2 topics have been diving deeper, whether you're leaving a legacy or helping people on a different level that people haven't even thought about before. That's really cool, man. That's really cool that you're doing that. And I read the book and I was looking at some more stuff you'd put out, and I was, and then you were talking to, again, Ed Milet about it. And I was like, whew, these are some people that know what they're talking about. And they're both being like, oh my God, did you just say what I just said? And you guys were like, yeah, I'm telling everybody that too. Because Ed's like, everybody that comes here, like 99% of them, I tell them to do this. And
we talked a lot about real estate off camera. He's a huge real estate guy, and so am I. But he loved the part where I was like, I want to change this across the country. And he's like, man, no one's talking about that. And he loved it. It was great. And
because I don't know anybody else that's talking about it, not in that sense. That's like, who's going out there and helping people with real estate in the manner with this? It's not a program, but in this manner with multi-level or multi.
And this has been around forever. So here's what I'm doing now, because there's only one of me, and I just can't get this stuff out fast enough, even with social media. So now I'm training real estate agents, because there's, hundreds and millions of thousands of those. I'm training them on this topic so they can offer that to their clients that are looking to buy houses as another option. I just want the information out there. Buying a house or a condo or a townhouse might not be the smartest move for your family. It might be a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. Live there for a few years, have a little bit of equity, pull out some money, put that down on a house, have your family, and now you have an income property and a house. And if you just bought those two pieces, you'd be set when you retired. Set, very set. And let's say, God forbid, something happens and it's catastrophic and you both lose your jobs. You can sell your house, put that money in the bank as a cushion until you figure it out and move back into one of your units in the fourplex. You have options.
Yeah.
And the options for me, I didn't have options growing up. It's like, we're poor, that's it, you got to work. So I want to be able to help people with those options. And if you were my client, I would say, listen, right now we are in a very weird real estate market across the country. It started to shift here in Southern California in June. You shouldn't buy anything for the next 12 months unless it's from like a family member and it's a smoking deal. Wait. Patiently wait and watch this market. It's moving and there's going to be an implosion. For sure.
Yeah.
It's already happening.
Well, I see it in the stock market currently. I mean, we've had a huge dip. I mean, I don't know the exact metric, but it's at least 30, maybe 40% in some sectors there. So I would imagine, I don't follow real estate as closely as you do, but I would imagine that if I'm seeing it in the stock market and the average is pulling down so much, then I would also see it in the real estate market, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
They for sure feed each other. And I've been talking about this for 2 years because I knew the whole market was being held together by cotton candy and bubble gum. It wasn't real money. Money was really, really cheap to get. I knew that wasn't going to be able to last.
Yeah, she was going up quick, and we all know anything that goes up quick like that, from Bitcoin all the way back to selling flowers to each other hundreds of years ago. I mean, it just, that stuff doesn't go up forever, you know? So I think a good piece of advice is yes, to wait, and it makes me feel a little bit better about being in a longer rent lease right now. So I think we're
and that's good. And the problem with the real estate market is so many real estate professionals push their clients to buying something because they want a commission check. That's how they make their money.
Yeah.
I've built my career on telling you to not buy for a year, and people are like, you're going to work with me for a year for nothing? I'm like, yeah, I want what's best for you. I don't want what's best for me. What's best for me is to have you buy something right now and I get paid, or my team gets paid, or my company gets paid that's doing like the real estate side. But what's best for you is for you to listen to me and to wait.
From my experience, this is really difficult for people to wait because people want things now. And I think even more than ever right now, people want it now. Like, it's now. Like, everything's fast. Everybody wants data. Everybody wants to instant gratification. Oh, the pictures are always changing, this and that. It's everywhere in life. So I think when somebody would hear you say, hey, wait a year until you buy this, I'm not sure how they would take that information. Especially, I think it's hard to find genuine people that are being like, I want to invest in you. And
that's right.
Even if I'm investing in myself, which I am, because you don't do it for free, but it's a long-term investment. But you can have both. You can help other people while you're helping yourself.
It's true. And what most people love to discount their network, and most people just look at short-term metrics. Let's say you came to me and you're like, look, Andy, we have a baby on the way, and here's what we're looking to do. I would sit down with you and your wife, and we'd literally go over every single thing that there was, pros and cons. And I would let you guys know, this market is crazy right now. Let's just wait. And then the market goes down. If you would have bought, you would have lost $200,000 in equity. You'd be in a bad negative position. You'd be forced to work harder than you wanted to, and it would be awful. Or you listen to me. I work with you for a year. I get you into a great piece of real estate, or our team does. Now you're going to tell every person you meet about me.
Yeah.
And then that's how your network and your referral base grows. So that's what I'm trying to literally disrupt across this entire real estate market, is if you're in this game forever, you need to make sure you have a great reputation forever.
Absolutely. Reputation is really important, and networking, I can tell you from personal experience, anybody hearing my voice right now has gotten me to where I am now. I never would have imagined I would have finished my year off. Now, at the time of this recording, as this comes out, I would have already recorded, but my last podcast of the year was with the former UFC champion of the world, Bas Rutten. And I would have never, ever thought that I would have started a podcast with my friend who's a day trader, just trying to teach other people how to trade. And then it kind of like leapfrogged a little bit. And then I'm finishing off my year talking to the king of Pancras, the 3-time king of Pancras in Japan. Like,
That's awesome.
that's insane. And then starting my year off speaking to you and everybody else, like last conversation, I just got off Skype with David Meltzer. Like it's blowing my mind.
Great guy.
David's amazing. And before I got on this call with you, I got off with a friend of his that I'm going to have on the podcast now too. And it's just, it's literally blowing my mind, but it goes back to one of the important notes that you made is, well, you've said patience and long term. And we know that those things kind of come hand in hand. I'm just saying the power of networking is not to be taken for granted. It's amazing, wondrous things can be done, but like you were saying as well, it needs to be reciprocated. So I don't have a lot that I can give to my guests, but I give everything I do have in that moment. So like, with every guest that I have, I'm going to put as much information as I can about you and every single, YouTube, we were talking about Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, wherever it goes out, Instagram, I'm going to blast you as much as I can because I'm going to do everything that I can do in my power. I mean, there's I'm not religious, but a Bible story that stuck out to me when I was a child and still obviously resonates with me, 20, 30 years later is rich gentleman gave so much money, like, the equivalent of thousands and thousands of dollars. And then this lady gave her 2 cents equivalent, but it was way more than the 10%. It was like half of what she had. So it's not necessarily about how much you're actually giving, but how much of what you have are you giving. So that's important for me. So I'm just saying like the networking and then being able to reciprocate that is priceless. And I think people can see that because we were all, for the most part, where the next guy or girl is right now.
Of course, everybody starts somewhere.
Yeah.
Like everybody, and I tell everybody the same thing. I go, we all suck in the beginning. Like, and you're way past that now. But like everybody, it's hard. Every professional athlete that you've ever seen, all the greatest warriors to ever walk the earth, when you first start, you suck, and then you get better, and then you get stronger. And then that's how it works. Yeah. So, dude, I completely agree with you, and I'm all about sharing and helping everybody else. I love to do these because, like, they'll usually tag me in them, and then I'll share it into, like, my world, and it's how the world is supposed to go around. It's just one giant collaboration.
I absolutely agree, and there's too many reasons why I do this, and I know there's so many reasons why you do what you do and all of that you do, but I firmly believe, and it's so damn cliche, but it just takes one person can literally make such a big impact in the world. And I think if more and more people had this mindset, so that's why I want more and more people to listen to it. If more and more people had this mindset, then more and more people will have this mindset. It's like more money makes more money, and more money makes more money. So a greater percentage makes a greater percentage. So let's get this out there and don't take it for granted, the impact that you can have, because like I just said, like to me, it was really important to talk to you for a plethora of reasons. But one of the reasons is because I looked up to you for everything that you're doing. So you're making impact on at least one person. Now, obviously, your social media has almost 200,000 following just on Instagram alone. So you're reaching a lot of people, but you reach all those people. And then I, in turn, reciprocate that by sharing this podcast with other people, and then I go off in my life, or I have a conversation usually after with my wife about this, and I talk to her about things that blow my mind. So it just this domino effect is real. It's very real, and I want more people to notice that they have more potential. Also, is it like a tangent point that they can affect more people that they want or than they think they can. And then number 2, that they have more potential. Their potential is way greater than they think they are, because I know, again, speaking from experience for myself, I have been very limiting in my mindset, and I've been struggling with, talking bad about myself inadvertently, not specifically going out. So I want people to, talk bad about themselves less, try to mitigate that as much as possible. I want people to raise their goals, and I want, I really want them to shoot higher than they ever thought possible. And one of the things that I'll never forget, it was an extremely pivotal conversation for me, was conversation number 21, I'll never forget, was with Evan Carmichael. And Evan Carmichael gave me insane advice off the camera afterwards. He told me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. And I think I know without a doubt that you're talking about pivot, like the podcast pivoted forever in that moment. Because he told me what I needed to hear, and he's obviously a professional at what he does at YouTube and everything else that he's doing. So people definitely should check him out. But because of that, I'm now in turn able to more effectively do my job at this and then reach more people.
And that's how this works. Like, that's the beauty of it. Most people, there's some crazy stat out there where it's most people that start a podcast don't make it past, I think it's episode 11 or 12.
I heard this recently too. I did hear that absolutely a lot. And I've talked to a lot of people, and that's one of the other things I'm trying to do is trying to not only give back in sharing this information with other people, but taking that statistic and helping other people create podcasts. Because like you said, like a little while ago, it's really not that hard. Like, it doesn't take that much money ultimately to effectively create a podcast. So that's what I'm doing right now. So actually, if you're hearing this and you want to start a podcast, I guarantee you, I've learned, like, not that the information, you can find the information out there, but I've painstakingly done all this stuff for, coming up on a year. And now I've, quarantined it. And I don't want to keep all this information myself. So I'm going to show it to people as well, because that's what I know. So, talking about another question that I get asked a lot, well, how do I find my passion? You always talk about all this stuff. Well, first, you can't just get paid for your passion if your passion isn't adding value to somebody. If you have to make money too if you're going to work your passion for your living. So you have to look again into yourself and be like, well, what am I good at? And I know I'm getting good at podcasting. I can see my track record. And again, that's why it's great to have a podcast, because that track record is always there, like you were saying.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So all these things tie together, of course, but you find what you're good at. That adds value to people as well. And I think that's a recipe for success.
It's a huge part of my message. So if you go to my website, there's just like, what is it? My name, and then it says, I think it's adding value first is all that matters. Like, sure. For me, it's so simple but so true. Like, I just want to add value, more value, and more value, and I'm just sharing what I've learned throughout my life. I learned something, I take to the world, and I share my experience with it. I didn't know what it was like to be a dad until I was a dad. I didn't know what it was like to run multiple companies at the same time until I did it. I didn't know what it was like to train for all these crazy triathlons and Ironmans until I did it. I didn't know what it was like to be a yoga teacher when I definitely didn't fit the mold. I just am sharing my experience and what I get from it. And some people resonate with it, some people don't. I actually curse a lot, and I'm trying to work on that a little bit, but some people are turned off by that. But it's me.
You have to be you. And that's one thing I definitely struggled with for anybody that's looking into getting into content creation, is to just be yourself. And I first actually figured it out in the dating world. I was dating people ended up not working for a lot of reasons, but I think we try to blame other people why it didn't work, but a lot of times maybe it's because of us, even if maybe they made the mistake or whatever. That happens a lot in young relationships. But a lot of times it's because I was greedy, or I was naive, or I was selfish. So when you start to reflect inwards like that and then reciprocate that is good.
I completely agree. That's all about the internal conversation can be really dark, or it can be incredible, but you get to choose.
You do get to choose. And that's another good point I'm glad you've brought up. It's because all of these things can happen to us. I don't know who I was talking about it recently, but they were saying, it doesn't matter if good things or bad things. It was Leland. Leland Jones is a 19-year-old phenom, written 4 books already. The dude's crushing it. I looked up, I was telling him, I drove an hour out of my way to go talk to this kid. I had never met him, and I was happy for it. We had a 2-hour conversation that went by in the blink of an eye. All
right, so just real quick, and I'm going to flip this on you. Sure. You were in the military.
Yeah.
Perfect. And you were in the Navy.
I was.
And you've been out for how long?
Since August of 18.
August of 18. So this is
6 months or so.
Right, so this is a big shift. What is the 1 or 2 things that you really miss the most?
So number 1, not in order of importance, but in the things that come into my mind immediately, 2 things immediately come to mind. One is structure, why I've recently added more structure to my life with, I was telling you about writing an Excel document and layering my day. So upon self-reflection again, which comes up a lot, but But upon looking back, I asked myself when I was most productive. And I was actually most productive. I was the most fit in my life, the most mentally aware and just sharp when I was on deployment. And that was because when I was on deployment, I had a very, like, I was going to the gym 7 days a week for months at a time. Like, I was eating really good and clean, and I was on this schedule, and I had those things that no shit got done. So I was like, well, this is the time that I was successful in my life for these things. So now I need to implement that into my life now. So that's what I've been doing, with having the no shit things that I get done during the day. Number 2 would be brotherhood. Now I say that, there's sisterhood out there too, but I'm just saying, like...
No, I understand. I work with a lot of people in the military, so I get it.
Yeah, so I'm just... The majority of the people that I worked with in the Naval Special Warfare where I worked, it was mostly guys, so brotherhood was the thing for anybody listening. Like, we work with women, and they would put me in the dirt, for sure. I want to be clear on that too. But what I mean by the dictionary term of a brotherhood is that bond that... And it doesn't just relate to military. And I say this a lot because there are things that come up organically about the military in this podcast, but they relate outside of the podcast. So the brotherhood is formed through situations that you go through with your friends, your family, whoever, tough situations. So if I have a deep conversation with my wife where we don't see eye to eye on everything, but we go through it and it sucks at the time, but these are things that need to be said. Well, we come out better because 1, we talked about it, and 2, we went through something that just sucked. So we learned a lot more about each other. So in the military, when you experience some things that you maybe never wish you want to experience, whether it be loss of life or just super stressful times trying to put some pieces of equipment together, you name it. When you're doing that with people and you're just absolutely stressed to the max, and this is what brings you closer together to people. And that's something I miss greatly now. Yes, it has nothing to do with the people in my life right now. I love the people I work with, but it just cannot match. Without a doubt, it cannot match to some of the things that I've done with some of the people. When you suffer with somebody, whether it's like even just getting your ass kicked on some, PT session or something like that I never... Like, I'd like to think I push myself that hard, but there's no way I push myself as hard as some of the things that I've had to endure. But going through those things with people absolutely brings you close together, and you can't break those ties. So to answer your question, the structure is huge, and I figured out that was something I needed in my life again. And the brotherhood is, I have people in my life that I like to talk to, but coming full circle, the brotherhood essentially is what I'm bringing back into my life, and it ties again into this podcast because I'm meeting people like you. I'm meeting people that I want in my close circle, my tight circle, that is something that I've shrunk a little bit, but at the same time now I had to shrink it a little bit because I had to do a lot of self-reflection and figure out who I wanted to bring into my life. But now that circle it's growing bigger. And it's growing stronger. So it's not this flimsy, big circumference that's like a frisbee in the wind. It's this huge steel plate that's firmly planted, and this circle is strong and it's not going anywhere. So this is something that I'm actually figuring out as these words come out of my mouth to you. What I'm inadvertently doing subconsciously is these 2 things that have come out. So that's a phenomenal question. What did I miss? And it's really interesting to see how it's coming full circle back into my life.
And that is exactly why I asked it. That is the most clear you've been since we've been talking. Like, clear. You knew exactly what it was, and it's pretty common with most people in the military. They miss that structure. They miss, because that's what creates a lower level of anxiety, because you know what you have to do and you got to get it done. And then you forge these unbreakable bonds through like fire and blood, sweat, and tears and death to get those things done. And it's unshakable. So what I try to do is because there's no way to replicate that in your world. But you can take some of those pieces and implement them in how you deal with your wife, your kids, your business, if you're an entrepreneur. Like, those things that you miss, you can get back in a certain way that makes a lot of sense. And I just love to hear you talk about it because I know how passionate you are about it. And that was awesome. and it was very clear to you what you needed to do.
And yeah, clearly I'm very passionate about I'm doing the podcast for a lot of reasons, but it does resonate on a different level because I know emotionally, which can be tied to passion, of course, a lot. Emotionally, that's just there are certain things in your life that you experience that just you'll never forget, obviously. And then when these things, this question that you asked is tied to these things, those are things you'll never forget. And these, obviously, it comes out in a very unique way.
No, and it was beautiful, brother. Like, it was really, really cool. And it was just a way for me to kind of see a little bit deeper into like who you are and why you're doing what you're doing now. And that's a huge part of your message, is to maybe tie some of the experiences that you're having now with some of those old experiences and how they've kind of forged you as a man now.
Yeah, I think that's an absolutely great idea. I'm glad you brought it up.
Sure.
And you need, and this is, again, like you've said so many good things, but this is why talking to people like this, in this manner, like exercising your mind just like you would your body. Like, if I would have not pushed myself to speak with you, then I would have never divulged this information about myself that I was doing by myself, but not necessarily realizing, because we need somebody from the outside maybe to look in sometimes and help us discover some things about ourselves, because for whatever reasons. But it's definitely good having people in your life that will do that for you.
I could not agree more, man. And there are those people for me, and I reach out to them because they see stuff in me that I can't see yet.
Yeah.
But I trust them, so I keep going.
Absolutely.
Like, it's the best, man. Yeah, this has been an awesome conversation.
Yeah,
I think you're a great guy. I think you're going to be an incredible dad. You're obviously an incredible husband. I think you have a great career in this, and just like keep going. Just keep going.
Thanks, Andy. I do really appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you and picking your brain, and just, it was everything I hoped for. I really, truly, I don't, just say that comically. Like, it was awesome. You shed some light on a numerous amount of topics. We talked about family, we talked about careers, passions, real estate, everything. I mean, all across the board. And I think these are things that people should be talking about, regardless of whether they're interested in investing. But I think if they want what's best for them and their family, again, in the long run, people should be thinking in that manner, at least a little bit. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your time, an hour out of your day. I know it's very important. We're talking about time and how important it is to us, but it is equally as important to me that you would do that. So thank you so much.
Of course, man. My pleasure.
All right, Andy. We'll see ya.
Thanks, bud.